What's going on, baseball fans? Coming at you with another MLB video. And this is going to be a video about the best player so far for the 2020 MLB season. Now, this doesn't mean the best player in the past. It doesn't mean who I think is the best player on the team in general. It just means the player that has gotten off to the hottest start in the 2020 season. Now, it might be a player you haven't heard of. There's a lot of players in the MLB right now that have gotten off, to really good starts of the year that you probably haven't heard of before, that they've been really bad players before, and they're off to a really hot start in the 2020 season. We're not going to be talking about the best player from each team that I think is in general. I'm going to be talking about the best players that has played the best so far for that team in the 2020 season. So let's get right into it. And by the way, there's not going to be a lot of pitchers on this list because, the season just started, so there's not going, pitchers have only, started like 2 or 3 games so far this year. So there's not going to be a lot of pitchers on this list unless they've put up, incredible starts for their first couple starts. But if they haven't done that, there's not going to be a lot of pitchers on this list for each team because pitchers only go out every 5 days, and how many games have we played this year? Like 16, 17 games? For most teams, we've played like 16, 17 games. So there's not going to be a lot of pitchers on this list, but let's get right into it. We're going to start off the video with my favorite team, the New York Yankees, and we're going to talk about probably the best player in baseball so far, and that's going to be Aaron Judge. He's definitely been the best player on the Yankees. Even though DJ LeMahieu's been great, I think Aaron Judge has definitely been the best player, and even though Aaron Judge did get injured, let's hope he doesn't go to the IL, Aaron Judge has absolutely been fantastic for the Yankees. He leads the league in homers. He's probably around the league lead in RBIs. He's off to an awesome start, plays great defense out in right field. He can run the bases well. Aaron Judge is a 5-tool player. He's an absolute beast. He's definitely been the MVP of baseball so far. He's gotten clutch home runs, that big 3-run home run against the Orioles. He had, those 2 home runs against the Red Sox. Aaron Judge has definitely been the MVP of baseball so far. He's off to an awesome start. He's definitely been the best player for the Yankees so far. So we move over to the Washington Nationals. Even though the Nationals aren't playing great baseball right now, they currently have a 6-9 record. They do have one player who is absolutely going off. It's their 21-year-old stud, Juan Soto. Even though he did miss, some time due to coronavirus, Juan Soto has, he's recovered, and he is absolutely off to an insane start. In 29 at-bats, he's hit .414 with 5 home runs and 10 RBIs, and an OPS at 1.486. Juan Soto is absolutely off to an insane start. Juan Soto has shown no signs of slowing down, and he's only 21 years old. He's going to get better and better every year. He's off to a crazy start, hit 2 home runs over 460 feet at Citi Field. Juan Soto's off to a crazy start. Now, I could have picked guys like Asdrubal Cabrera and Howie Kendrick. They're playing good right now, and, Patrick Corbin's off to a great start. Max Scherzer, of course. But I got to go with Juan Soto. He's a 21-year-old stud. He's definitely the best player on that. He might even be the best player on that team, and I think Juan Soto is off to the best start this year, even though he's only had 29 bats. I still think Juan Soto has been the best player on the Nationals so far this year. Moving over to the Cleveland Indians, and the Indians are a team that's really not off to a great offensive start, but on the pitching side, they've been absolutely fantastic. And the one guy that's really popped out to me was Shane Bieber. He's absolutely off to an unbelievable start. He's probably been the best pitcher in baseball so far this year. He's off to a crazy good start. He has a 3-0 record. He's never lost a game so far this year. A 1.63 ERA, which is fantastic. 43 strikeouts, which is the most in baseball, as well as a .76 WHIP. Shane Bieber's absolutely off to a fantastic start. He's one of the best young pitchers in the game. I'm a huge Shane Bieber fan. I'm a big believer in him. And he's coming out this year with a great start to the season. Shane Bieber, in my opinion, is the best player on the Indians so far this year. So we head down to the NL West. We're going to be talking about the Arizona Diamondbacks, and their best player so far has been Starling Marte. Starling Marte's off to a really good start. Now, the Diamondbacks signed Starling Marte in the offseason. I thought it was a nice pickup. When they picked up Starling Marte, I thought the Diamondbacks could use him as a platoon player, but Starling Marte has found his way as the starting center fielder for the D-backs this year. He's hitting .369 in the season with 2 homers to give him 9 RBIs, has a .984 OPS, which is really high, really solid. Starling Marte's off to a really good start for the Diamondbacks. He's off to a great start, and so far, on a Diamondbacks team that's really struggling right now, he's definitely been the best player for the Arizona Diamondbacks so far this year. So we move over to the Boston Red Sox, and the Red Sox are playing terrible baseball right now. They're 6-13. They have the worst record in the American League. They're absolutely atrocious right now, but there is one player who's off to a great start, and that is their shortstop, Xander Bogaerts. He's an absolute beast. He had a great year last year, had over 100 RBIs. I think Xander Bogaerts is so underrated, and he's proving it this year. He's off to a great start. In 58 at-bats, he has a .293 batting average to give him 3 home runs, 10 RBIs, 2 stolen bases with a .896 OPS. Xander Bogaerts is off to a great start. He's playing great defense over there at shortstop. In the past, Bogaerts has never really been a great defender. He's playing great defense over at shortstop. Xander Bogaerts only gets better and better, and he's off to a great start this year. And now, even though the Red Sox are an atrocious baseball team, Xander Bogaerts is one of the bright spots on that team. He's off to a great start, and the Red Sox are really struggling. Xander Bogaerts is definitely their best guy right now. He's their best player on the Red Sox so far in 2020. We move over to Chicago. We're going to be talking about the best team in baseball right now, the Chicago Cubs. They have a 13-3 record, and the main reason why the Cubs are playing so well is because of their pitching. And do you know who's doing good at pitching right now for the Cubs? John Lester. Who knew John Lester at 36 years old was going to get off to such a great start? In his first 3 games of the year, he has a 2-0 record with a 1.06 ERA. That is ridiculous. Who knew at 36 years old John Lester would have an ERA under 2, almost below 1? That's crazy. And he's off to a great start in his first 17 innings. He only has 9 strikeouts, but has a .65 whip. John Lester is absolutely off to a ridiculous start. Do I think John Lester will keep it up throughout the year? No, he's still 36 years old. I don't think John Lester is the same pitcher he used to be, but I got to give John Lester credit. He's off to a great start this year. I didn't see it coming. The Cubs have been a big surprise team this year. I didn't think the Cubs were going to be a great team, but they've proved me wrong. They have a 13-3 record. They're definitely the best team in baseball right now, and one of the main reasons why is because of their pitching. And John Lester has probably been their best pitcher this year, and he's off to a ridiculous start. John Lester, best player on the Cubs so far. So we're going to talk about one of the more surprising teams in baseball right now, the Colorado Rockies. They're playing really good baseball, and one of the main reasons why is because of Charlie Blackmon. Wow, what a start this guy's off to. Charlie Blackmon was hitting 500 at a point. Now, I know he's playing most of his games at Coors Field, but I don't care. If you're hitting 500 at a point in the season, that's absolutely ridiculous. He's hitting 472 right now in 72 at-bats. That's a decent amount of at-bats to hit 472. He has 3 home runs and has 20 RBIs and a 1.187 OPS. Charlie Blackmon is absolutely off to an insane start. He's one of the main reasons why the Rockies are, so successful right now. Now, the Rockies are a surprise team. I don't expect the Rockies to continue this rate of winning a lot of games. I still don't think the Rockies are a great team, but Charlie Blackmon is off to a ridiculous start. He was hitting almost 500 at a point. He's definitely a guy who could bat 400 by the end of this year. In a 60-game season, there are definitely going to be multiple guys hitting over 400. I think Charlie Blackmon definitely is going to be the guy that will hit over 400 by the end of the year. Charlie Blackmon, what a start he's off to. Definitely the best player on the Rockies so far, and he's been one of the best players in baseball so far. Definitely for the Rockies, best player. So we move over to the Los Angeles Angels, and their best player in 2020, you guessed it, the best player in baseball, Mike Trout. Having a typical Mike Trout year, 61 at-bats, 328 batting average, 8 home runs, 16 RBIs, and a 1.115 OPS. He's off to a fantastic start to this year. The Angels are a bad team. They're going to waste Mike Trout's career. He's probably never going to make the playoffs in his career. Mike Trout's absolutely off to a ridiculous start. Typical Mike Trout numbers. He's the best player in baseball, and he continues to get better every single season. Man, he's good. Best player on the Angels so far, definitely Mike Trout. So we move over to the New York Mets, and the New York Mets are a team not playing great baseball right now. They're definitely in a tough spot, but the best player on the Mets right now, I think has been the most productive for them, is going to be Michael Conforto. In 72 at-bats, Michael Conforto was hitting .333, which is a very high average. He has 3 home runs, 11 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, with a .949 OPS. Michael Conforto is doing a really good job for the Mets in that middle of that lineup. I think Michael Conforto is a really solid player, very good defense out in right field. He's an everyday player, very solid, typical middle-of-your order type of hitter. I like Michael Conforto. I'm a big fan of him. I think he's a solid player, and I'm on a Mets team that's really struggling right now. I think Conforto's their best guy right now. So we're going to head down to Detroit, talk about the Detroit Tigers, and the Tigers are playing pretty decent baseball right now, and one of their players who's probably off to the best start for them is going to be Jacoby Jones. In 46 at-bats, Jacoby Jones has a .304 batting average, give him 5 home runs and 12 RBIs and a 1.090 OPS. Now, previous to 2020, Jacoby Jones was a terrible center fielder. He played good defense, but as a hitter, he was pretty bad, and he's coming into this year, and he has a .304 batting average and 5 home runs and 12 RBIs. He's put up very solid numbers. I'm impressed with Jacoby Jones. He's having a much better year than I expected, and he's been the best player for the Tigers. We're going to head down to Atlanta. We're going to talk about the Atlanta Braves starting pitcher, Max Fried. Now, the Atlanta Braves do have a lot of solid hitters, guys like Ronald Acuna, Freddie Freeman, Marcell Ozuna, and they're all hitting pretty well, but I couldn't really choose between the three. They're not really performing at insane levels, and I don't really think they're the most impactful player for that team. The most impactful player, I think, on the Braves right now is going to be Max Fried. We all know the Braves have very weak pitching, and obviously with Mike Soroka injured, Max Fried has to step up and be the ace of that staff, and Max Fried has done just that. In 4 games, he has a 3-0 record, has a 1.59 ERA. He's off to a fantastic start for the Braves. I do think Max Fried can step into Soroka's role and be the ace of that Braves staff. It's a weak pitching down there at Atlanta. Max Fried's got to step up, and he's done just that. I think Max Fried is the most important player on the Braves, and he's the best player I have for the Braves so far in 2020. So we're going to head down to Pittsburgh, talk about the Pittsburgh Pirates, and the Pirates are atrocious. They have a 4-13 record, the worst record in baseball, but their best player so far for the Pirates has been Eric Gonzalez. Gonzalez has hit well for them. In 40 at-bats, he has a .350 batting average with a home run and 9 RBIs, also has a .900 OPS. Eric Gonzalez was never really a great player throughout his career, but he's off to a very solid start with the Pirates, and the Pirates are atrocious, not a lot of bright spots for that team. Eric Gonzalez off to a pretty solid start for them, so he's the best player for the Pirates. Not a lot to choose from. He was the best player on the Pirates. So now we're going to head up north. We're going to be talking about the Toronto Blue Jays, and the Blue Jays are a team not playing great baseball right now, but there is one guy on their team who is playing fantastic baseball right now, one of the best young shortstops in the game, Bo Bichette. In 54 at-bats, he has a .352 batting average with 4 home runs and 10 RBIs, 4 stolen bases already, which is good, and also a 1.034 OPS. Bo Bichette's off to a fantastic start, played really well in his rookie season last year, and he has shown no signs of slowing down, off to a fantastic start this year. He's going to be one of the best shortstops in the game after he has a couple years under his belt. Bo Bichette's a beast. Definitely best player on the Blue Jays so far this year. So now we're going to talk about the Miami Marlins, and their best player so far has been Brian Anderson. The Marlins are playing great baseball. Brian Anderson, in my opinion, has been their best player so far. In 42 at-bats, he's had a .286 batting average for 4 home runs, 13 RBIs, and a 1.007 OPS. I'm a big OPS guy. I think it's a very important stat. And if you have an over 1,000 OPS, you're a good player in my eyes. And a .286 batting average is very high. 4 home runs, 13 RBIs. He's having a nice year, and the Marlins haven't played as much games as other teams have. I like Brian Anderson a lot. He's been their best player from the Marlins. So we move over to the St. Louis Cardinals, and the Cardinals have only played 5 games this season due to coronavirus, so I guess I got to choose Paul Goldschmidt. He got off to a good start for them, 19 at-bats. He had a .316 average with a home run and an RBI, .855 OPS. Not a lot of other Cardinals were doing that well, so I guess I choose Paul Goldschmidt. So now we go to the Kansas City Royals, and the Royals' best player for the 2020 season so far is going to be Salvador Perez. Salvador Perez missed all of 2019 due to an injury. He's coming back in 2020, and he's off to a great start. In 79 at-bats, he's hit for a .329 batting average, 4 home runs, and 12 RBIs, and an .898 OPS. Salvador Perez might not have played last year. He still plays great defense behind the dish, and he's a great hitter, and it looks like he's returned to his old form. Salvador Perez is off to a great start, and he's the best hitter for the Royals so far in 2020. So now we're going to talk about one of the biggest surprise teams of the season so far, the Baltimore Orioles. They're playing great baseball of late. They just coming off of a sweep of the Philadelphia Phillies, and they've had a lot of great hitters on offense so far. But the main guy I'm going to say is doing the best job for the Orioles is going to be Pedro Severino, their catcher. In 48 at-bats, he's been fantastic. He's hit for a .333 batting average, 4 home runs, 13 RBIs, and an OPS over 1,000. Who knew that pretty much a career backup catcher with the Nationals, Pedro Severino, is now on the Orioles, and he's hitting pretty much like an elite catcher in the league. Who knew that Pedro Severino was going to play this well? He's off to a great start for the Orioles. The Orioles are playing well. Pedro Severino is one of the main reasons why the Orioles are doing so great. Pedro Severino, best player on the Orioles so far. So we move over to the San Diego Padres, and I think you'd expect who I'm going to say here. Going to be Fernando Tatis Jr., the stud shortstop for the San Diego Padres. He's absolutely off to a crazy start last year. Had a great rookie year last year. Probably would have won Rookie of the Year if he never got injured. Plays great defense over at shortstop. He's an electrifying player. He's so fun to watch. Padres are playing great baseball right now. Fernando Tatis Jr. is one of the reasons why. He's in 79 at-bats. He has a .304 batting average, 8 home runs, 18 RBIs, 5 stolen bases, and a 1.059 OPS. He's so fun to watch. He's an electrifying player, and he's definitely the best player on the Padres, on the team overall, and he's definitely the best player on the Padres in 2020 so far. So now we go to the Texas Rangers, and the Rangers are a team, they're not great, but they're not bad. They're right around average, and they don't really hit. They're not really a great offensive team, so their best player I'm going to go with so far for 2020 is going to be Lance Lynn. He's only pitched 4 games, but in those 4 games, he's 2-0 with a 1.16 ERA. Lance Lynn has one of the lowest ERAs in Major League Baseball so far. He's off to a great start. Didn't expect Lance Lynn to pitch this well for the Rangers. He's their best player so far. So now we move over to the Philadelphia Phillies, and the Phillies aren't a great team. They just got swept by the Baltimore Orioles, but there is one player who's playing really well for them. That's going to be JT Realmuto. He's the best catcher in baseball. I don't care what anybody says. Yasmani Grandal is great, but JT Realmuto is the best in my opinion. 48 at-bats. He has a .292 batting average, 7 homers, 17 RBIs, and he has a 1.088 OPS. JT Realmuto is off to a great start. He's the best catcher in baseball. He's a beast. I wish he was on the Yankees, and he's definitely been the best player for the Phillies so far. Now we're going to head down to the AL West. We're going to be talking about the Seattle Mariners. Now, the Mariners are in rebuild phase. They don't have a lot of great players, but there's one player that stands out to me. I think he's their best player so far. That's going to be Kyle Lewis. I like Kyle Lewis a lot. I think he could be a really good player throughout his career. In 74 at-bats, he has a .338 batting average for 4 home runs, 14 RBIs, a stolen base, and a .918 OPS. I think Kyle Lewis can be a very solid player throughout his career. Now, he's not great defensively, but at the plate, he's really good, has got a ton of speed. I like Kyle Lewis a lot. I think he's a part of that bright future for the Mariners. I like Kyle Lewis. I think he's been their best player so far. We're going to head to the Chicago White Sox, and their best player so far has been Tim Anderson. Now, I thought Tim Anderson could have, been a one-year player. He just had one good season because before 2019, before the whole let the kids play thing, Tim Anderson was not a great player, and he came in 2019 and had a fantastic year. Won the batting title, hit .335, and he's coming back this year, and he's proved me wrong. He's having another great year. In 39 at-bats, he has missed some time due to an injury, but in those 39 at-bats, he's hit 385, he has 2 homers, 2 RBIs, and he hasn't had much RBIs, mainly because he's out of the leadoff spot, and he's had no stolen bases yet, but he has a 1.107 OPS. Tim Anderson's off to a really hot start on a White Sox team that's got a lot of talent. They're loaded on offense. Tim Anderson, in my opinion, has been the best player so far for the White Sox, and that's going to be a good White Sox team. If they can improve their pitching, the White Sox can be even better. Tim Anderson's a beast. He's been the best player for the White Sox so far, and all the dude does is hit. Best player on the White Sox. We're going to go to the LA Dodgers now, and the LA Dodgers are probably the best team in the National League. They have a 13-7 record. Even though technically the Cubs have the best record, I think by the end of the year, the Dodgers are the best team in the National League. And their best player, it's the second best player in baseball, Mookie Betts. Now guys like Cody Bellinger's off to a slow start, so Mookie Betts is their best player. He just hit 3 home runs in the game yesterday. He's the first player. I think he's done that 6 times in his career. I think he's the first player ever to do that. Mookie Betts is an absolute stud. He's a future Hall of Famer. In 72 at-bats this year, he's hitting .319, 7 home runs, 15 RBIs. He's stolen a base, a 1.074 OPS. Mookie Betts is doing typical Mookie Betts things. He's the second best player in baseball. Mookie Betts deserves every single penny he got from the Dodgers. He's so good. Mookie Betts is the second best player in baseball, and he's been the best player on the Dodgers so far. He just hit 3 home runs yesterday. The kid's incredible. Best player on the Dodgers for sure. We're heading down to Minnesota. Talk about the Minnesota Twins. Loaded offense on that team. They're off to a good start. But their best player overall, I got to go with the 40-year-old Nelson Cruz. What a start he's off to. And at 40 years old, he's still hitting it at an incredible rate. 70 at-bats, he's hitting .329, 4 homers, 18 RBIs, and a .948 OPS. He seems to get better as he's getting older. I don't know how that's possible. Nelson Cruz continues to get better every year, and he's still 40 years old, and he's still hitting like he's a 25-year-old rookie, and he's a beast. Best player on the Twins so far this year. He's putting up great numbers. He's the best player on the Twins so far. We're going to move over to one of the more disappointing teams so far, the Cincinnati Reds. I thought the Reds could be the favorites to win the Central. They're really not doing great right now. I think they're 8-11, but there is one player doing a great job putting on MVP numbers. That's going to be Nicholas Castellanos. I knew he'd go off in Great American Ballpark. In 72 at-bats, he's hitting .264 with 7 home runs and 16 RBIs, an OPS over 1,000. Nicholas Castellanos is beasting down there in Cincinnati. I knew he'd go off down there in Great American Ballpark. The Reds aren't doing great right now, but I do think the Reds will bounce back. I still think they're the best team in the Central, and I think Castellanos will be a big part of why the Reds are successful this year. They're off to a slow start, but Nicholas Castellanos putting up MVP numbers. He's been the best player for the Reds so far. Now we're going to move on to the Houston Trash Can Bangers, the Houston Astros. Their best player so far has been Carlos Correa, and a lot of Astros hitters has been struggling because they don't know what pitch is coming, but Carlos Correa has actually been doing pretty well. In 66 at-bats, he has a .333 batting average with 2 home runs, 8 RBIs, and a .906 OPS. Carlos Correa is actually one of the players on the Astros who's actually doing well, and besides that, the Astros lineup is struggling because they don't know what pitch is coming, but Carlos Correa is doing pretty well for them, but he's really the only guy that's doing really good in that lineup. He's the best player for the Astros. We're going to be talking about the San Francisco Giants, and the Giants aren't a great team. In fact, they're a pretty terrible team, but they do have a guy who's pretty solid, and that's going to be Mike Yastrzemski, the grandson of Carl Yastrzemski. And this year, he's having a very solid year with 70 at-bats, .314 batting average, 4 homers, 12 RBIs, a stolen base, and an OPS over 1,000. He had the highest OPS in the league at one point. I think Mike Yastrzemski's a solid player, and he's probably the best hitter in that weak Giants lineup. He's their best player for the Giants. Staying out in California, we're going to be talking about the Oakland A's, and their best player so far has been Matt Chapman. Matt Chapman is an absolute wizard at third base. He's one of the best defensive infielders in the game. You could argue Andrelton Simmons, you could argue Nolan Arenado. I would say Matt Chapman is the best defensive infielder in the league. He's fantastic at third base. No balls go by him. And at the plate, he's a really good hitter as well. In 78 at-bats this year, he's hitting .269 with 6 home runs and 15 RBIs, a .920 OPS, which is very solid. Matt Chapman's a very solid hitter. He's not a great hitter. He's not an elite hitter, but he's a very solid hitter. And defensively, Matt Chapman is absolutely fantastic. He might not be the number 1 third baseman in the game or the number 2. Nolan Arenado is definitely the number 1, but he's still a great third baseman, definitely top 5. Matt Chapman is a fantastic young player. Wizard over there at third base. Best player on the A's so far has been Matt Chapman. Second to last team in the video, we're going to be talking about the Milwaukee Brewers. The Brewers aren't a great team. They were a great team a couple years ago. Now they're really not that great. Christian Yelich is not playing well. He's in a big slump. So I think the Brewers' best player right now is honestly Brandon Woodruff. The Brewers can't hit for anything this year. I mean, their offense has been atrocious. The Brewers really can't hit for anything this year. They're not really a great team. Their pitching isn't great either, but they do have one pitcher who's very solid, and that is Brandon Woodruff. In 4 games, he has a 1-1 record with a 2.53 ERA. I think Brandon Woodruff is a very underrated pitcher. If Brandon Woodruff can stay healthy, I think he can definitely be a sleeper Cy Young candidate. I'm a big believer in Brandon Woodruff. If he can stay healthy, he can be I think he can be a Cy Young candidate. I like Brandon Woodruff a lot. He's the best player on the Brewers so far. We have finally made it to the final team in this video, the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, the Rays are meant for their pitching, but their offense has been really good this year, and one of the main reasons why their offense has been so good is because of Brandon Lowe. Brandon Lowe is one of the more underrated second basemen in the game, and I feel like we got to give more respect to Brandon Lowe's name. He's a really good player. In 70 at-bats this year, he's hitting .329 with 6 home runs and 19 RBIs, and an OPS at 1.2126. And on a Rays team that really doesn't hit that well, Brandon Lowe's hit really well for them. He's probably their best hitter in that lineup. Austin Meadows is good, but I think Brandon Lowe is the best hitter on that lineup. And on a Rays team that really doesn't hit that much, Brandon Lowe's a great player. I think he's the best hitter on the Rays lineup, and I think he's been the best player so far. That is finally going to do it for this video. If you stuck around for all 20 minutes, I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it if you guys drop a like. This took a long time to make. It took a long time to edit and all that stuff. So I would appreciate if you guys dropped a like and, drop a comment saying you want more MLB content like this. I know I mainly only make Yankees and Giants videos, but if you want me to make more broad MLB, broad NFL content, make sure to drop a comment saying that you want more of this stuff. Once again, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace. And by the way, make sure to stay tuned for the reaction between the Yankees and Red Sox. And, I know Aaron Judge just went to the IL. I'll make a video about that, too. Anyway, peace.